Okay, remember, an animal is a visual thinker. And one big safety thing that I'm seeing that can really get dangerous is the animal views a man on a horse and a man on the ground as two totally different things. It's like two totally different file folders in its head. So if it's only been handled by a man on a horse and never gone in and out of a pen by a person on the ground, that can be very dangerous. For example, if you take the cattle off a ranch and they go to an auction market, or there's been feed yards where everything's done on a horse. Everything's done on a horse, even loading them, bringing them up to the working area. And then when they get to the slaughter plant, it is just really dangerous because on the horse, they might have a 5-foot flight zone, and when you're on the ground, they now have a 30 or 40-foot flight zone in a 20-foot pen at the plant, and they're just racing back and forth, and that's real super dangerous. It's important to get animals trained to person on a horse, person on the ground. Let's train on the four-wheelers too, and let's make sure that those first experiences with that new thing are good, because it's not fun to be in a small pen when the pen is smaller than the animal's flight zone. And horses are the same way. There are Mustangs, people have adopted Mustangs, and that Mustang might be fine for riding, but he gets all scared and crazy when you work with him on the ground. Well, think about it. When he was out and getting rounded up, it was bad stuff happening with people on the ground. Again, in the horse's brain, person on the back, person on the ground, they view it as two different things. Okay, now I'm going to kind of switch gears, and I'm going to get into talking about auditing. You know, I've been working for years on handling workshops and working on trying to get people to handle. When I first started out in the 70s, I thought I could fix everything if I just built the perfect system, that I could do it all with engineering. That was the 70s. Then in the 80s, I started working on training managers because I realized if I didn't get manager buy-in to good handling, things just tended to regress back. You know, you build something nice, you go out there, you show them how to use it right, and I'd come back a year later and they're jamming the crowd pen full. You know, and there's 3 guys around the crowd pen and they're zapping them with hot shots. And the thing that happens is a lot of people slowly kind of slip back into these bad practices, and they just don't realize that they're sliding back into bad practices. Well, you've got to measure handling to prevent bad from becoming normal. You know, when I first started out, there might have been 5 or 10% of people had really good handling. You know, and the amount of people that are handling cattle really well, that's expanded. And there's been all these people out here now doing low-stress handling workshops. You'll be going to one on Wednesday. That's something I really want to encourage. It's really, really a good thing. And you'll see the bud box design, and one advantage of that's really cheap. You can make it out of portable panels, but it does require a bit more skill to use that than some of the curved layouts. But both kinds of designs, you got to lay them out right. Got to lay them out right, or they're not going to work, and you can't be jamming it full. So you got to measure handling. You know, like measure, well, how many cattle fell down during handling? How many hit a fence? How many went racing out at, faster than a walk or a trot? How many bellowed right when you caught them with the squeeze chute? That's stuff that I can measure, and I can tell, am I getting better or am I getting worse? Well, for the last 11 years, I've worked with McDonald's, Wendy's, and other restaurant companies on their auditing program. You know, it's sort of like this is the management thing to get them to do it right. And I saw, when we implemented this in 1999, I saw more change than I had seen in my whole entire career. I used to go into the plants like in the early 90s, busted up equipment all over the place, broken stun guns, just a mess. Broken stun guns, that was the #1 reason for not putting cattle down with one shot, because they just didn't take care of the equipment. And the thing that frustrates me is we've done so many things to improve, but the public doesn't know about it. Doesn't know about it at all. I'll get to that in just a little bit later. But when we write guidelines for things, we shouldn't be writing vague guidelines talking about sufficient or proper. What does sufficient or proper mean? I don't know what that means. One person's idea of proper would be somebody else's idea of bad. Here's an example of writing a guideline clearly. The pigs have to have enough space so they can all lay down at the same time without being on top of each other. Now here's the simple scoring system that we've been using now for the last 11 years at the meatpacking plants. I'm not going to call them harvest facilities. When I went out to Hollywood, I used the slaughter word. They didn't seem to have any problem with it at all. But I measure 5 very simple things. And these 5 very simple things can measure a multitude of problems. Like an animal could slip and fall because the floor is slippery, or it could be because everybody got it all excited and agitated. Or he's vocalizing while you're handling. It could be electric prodders, it could be a broken stunner, it could be slamming gates on it. Now, obviously, when you separate the cows from the calves, they're going to vocalize. But when you're handling animals in a handling facility going into the squeeze chute, they usually don't vocalize unless something bad happens, like an electric prod on their rear end.